Good day everyone, this is Engineer Aljan Michael G. Sabak and I welcome you to our Session 6 discussion about Earth science. Today, we will tackle more of its interactions from one sphere to another like what we have always been doing on the social media. We humans on the other hand are communicating with each other around the globe through technology. We are likely connected through the internet and other social media applications like Facebook, Google, and YouTube. It is more likely the same as what we are doing right now since I am communicating with all of you and discussing you things about the Earth. The Earth also has its own way of communicating itself. It's not just us humans but everything here on Earth works hand in hand. Everything is being connected with each other so that it will be in equilibrium and for it to have the balance to sustain the planet itself. Likewise, the four major spheres on Earth are governed by series of processes that are interconnected and it plays a vital role to make planet Earth work as a whole. As a recap, we have the following spheres. First, is the geosphere. The geosphere describes all of the rocks, minerals and ground that are found on and in Earth, and it is divided into three main parts: the crust, mantle, and core. Second, we have the hydrosphere. This is the sphere that includes all of the planet's water, and this is the reason why the Earth has been called the blue planet due to its abundance. The third one is the atmosphere. This is the part of the Earth that includes the mixture of gases that surrounds the planet, and also it protects the Earth from harm from outside objects. Lastly, we have the biosphere. The biosphere is where all forms of life exist, and it is sometimes thought of as one large ecosystem, a complex community of living and non-living things functioning as a single unit. Let's try to visualize. I have here a picture of a forest. In this image, we can see many animals that are interacting with each other not only among themselves but also with the other species. Imagine that you are part of it and you are interacting with them, and all of a sudden the sun disappeared. How will you react on that scenario? What will most likely to happen with the animals around? Now, think of it deeply. Would it still remain the same? Or will it change abruptly? Yes, you are right. If the sun disappears, it will cause a major disruption in the balance of the ecosystem. Let's try to look on a different scale. Now I have a picture of a snake plant. These are the variables that makes it alive. We have sunlight, land, water and air. What if there will be a lacking variable? Will the plant survive? Of course, it won't, since it needs those variables to grow. As you can see, a plant that lacks any variable will not survive. Thus, it needs the primary elements for it to survive. So basically, everything is connected and acts like a system. A system that works together to form a whole. This time we will picture our Earth as one whole working body since it works in a systematic way. The Earth system is all of the matter, energy, and processes within Earth's boundary that continuously cycle through the smaller systems. When we talk about a system, it means that a group of related objects or parts that work together to form a whole. For example, working with your group mates in an activity. You are working with each other to accomplish something, and that reflects our Earth. All of the spheres of Earth interact as matter and energy change and cycle through the system. A result of these interactions is that they make life on Earth possible. Earth's spheres interact as matter moves between them. In some processes, matter moves through several spheres. Question now is, how does it works? What is the source and driving force that make it all happen? The source of which comes from our sun. Almost all of Earth's energy comes from the it. Energy is transferred between Earth's spheres, and it is not created nor destroyed. It is the main factor that everything on Earth is dynamic and active. The movement of energy through Earth's system forms an energy budget, which means that any addition of energy to one sphere must be balanced by an equal subtraction of energy from another sphere. As we recall our knowledge, we know that energy exists in many forms, such as heat, light, chemical energy, and electrical energy, and it is the ability to bring about change or to do work, which means that without it, all the things on earth will cease from working the usual. Also, it is not only our sun that gives off energy. We have also the geothermal energy that comes from the geosphere below the surface of the earth. Again, we have the sun as our external source of energy, and we have the geothermal energy that is generated below the surface of the earth that works as the internal source. Now, I will introduce you the major sphere interactions, and we will start off from our own sun since it is the major source of energy here on our planet. First we have the energy budget. Simply saying, it is the transfer of energy from the sun to the subcomponents of Earth. It accounts for the balance between the energy that Earth receives from the sun, and the energy the Earth radiates back into outer space after having been distributed throughout the 5 components of Earth's climate system. Earth's energy budget is vital in establishing the Earth's climate. When Earth's energy flow is balanced, global temperatures stay relatively stable over long periods of time. Sometimes, changes in the system cause Earth's energy budget to become unbalanced. Here we can see that our sun is interacting with all the things here on Earth and for which it gives energy to make everything happen. Next, we have the carbon cycle. This is a series of processes by which carbon compounds are interconverted in the environment, involving the incorporation of carbon dioxide into living tissue by photosynthesis and its return to the atmosphere through respiration, the decay of dead organisms, and the burning of fossil fuels. It can be defined as the cyclic process in which carbon element is circulated continuously through the living and non-living components of the biosphere. Primarily, everything starts with the atmosphere and ends in the atmosphere, whether it goes to the biosphere for photosynthesis or afterwards it goes to the geosphere for decaying and to be turned into fossil fuels like coal and petroleum. Next, we have the oxygen cycle and respiration. Plants and animals breathe oxygen and return it to the air and water as carbon dioxide. Through photosynthesis, plants convert carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrates, and release oxygen. The oxygen cycle involves 2 major spheres, the atmosphere and the biosphere, for which plants take energy from the sun and atmospheric oxygen in the atmosphere. The plants then gives off oxygen for the living things to breathe in. And living things exhale carbon dioxide and then goes back into the atmosphere, and the cycle goes on. We have also the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle is the biogeochemical cycle by which nitrogen is converted into multiple chemical forms as it circulates among atmosphere, geosphere, and marine ecosystems in the hydrosphere. The conversion of nitrogen can be carried out through both biological and physical processes. Next is the phosphorus cycle. This cycle moves through every sphere except the atmosphere because it is rarely a gas. It gets to the soil from rocks breaking down and being dissolved in water, or when an animal dies. Plants absorb it and it becomes part of them. Animals eat the plant, and both die, returning it to the ground. And the last one involves the movements of our own planet. The Earth's rotation causes night and day that affects every living thing here on Earth. Also, the Earth's tilt causes seasons that affects the entire ecosystem itself. Alright, those major sphere interactions presented are part of the whole system of our planet. Now, let's try to look into the smaller picture. Let's investigate some events that are happening nowadays in order to know how each of the spheres are connected from each other and what are the effects of such. Let's try to look into these different events and let's distinguish how each event affects the other spheres. We have earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and typhoons. This is an actual photo taken during the eruption of Mount Pinatubo on June 15, 1991. As we can see, the eruption is being generated in the geosphere. And in this case, Mount Pinatubo is releasing huge clouds of volcanic ash and gas that rises above its crater, and the eruption is considered the second largest volcanic eruption on Earth in this century. Here, we can observe that the geosphere is generating the event and it has adverse effects to the atmosphere and the biosphere, for which it can displace the living things living on the vicinity of the volcano, and also it can affect the health of people and animals that can lead to death. Moreover, it can also affect the atmosphere since it is giving off mixture of gases and dust, making the whole Earth's temperature to lower down. We have also earthquakes. One of which is the Bohol earthquake that happened in the year 2013. The event, like the volcanic eruption, originates in the geosphere because of the movement of the plates below the surface of the Earth, when in fact the Philippines is primarily located in the Pacific Ring of Fire, meaning it is an earthquake-prone country. Earthquakes can damage buildings which may kill people in the biosphere. It can also cause fires which releases gases into the atmosphere. Moreover, the destroyed buildings can be a source of noise pollution and dust pollution that affects everything in the atmosphere and can also be a problem to the people living in the area. Earthquakes can also induce and may cause a tsunami if it will happen in the hydrosphere, specifically on our seas and oceans, that can eventually hit land and kill both animals and people. Lastly, we have typhoons. This is known in the Philippines as Super Typhoon Yolanda. It was one of the most powerful tropical cyclones ever recorded. On making landfall, Typhoon Yolanda devastated portions of Southeast Asia, particularly the Philippines. Unlike the earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, a typhoon originates in the atmosphere and collects energy from the hydrosphere through the oceans. These winds then collect moisture and rise, while colder air moves in below. This creates pressure, which causes the winds to move very quickly. The winds rotate, or spin, around a center called an eye and eventually devastates everything in its path. Since it can destroy everything in its way, it can be a problem to the people living in its vicinity. It can affect also the hydrosphere since it can create storm surges and can also induce floods. It can also affect the geosphere, for it can create landslides. After seeing everything that we have discussed, we can conclude that everything around us is connected to one another. For example, many birds in the biosphere fly through the air in the atmosphere, while water in the hydrosphere often flows through the soil in the geosphere. In fact, the spheres are so closely connected that a change in one sphere often results in a change in one or more of the other spheres. One small problem can lead into other big problems and will turn out just like a domino effect. With this, we learned that the four spheres, namely geosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere and the biosphere of Earth, drive all of its processes and support life on our unique planet. Material on Earth doesn't stay how it is. It gets recycled into other phases and forms. Plants in the ground die, and as they are broken down by microorganisms, they become soil, which can then feed new plants. Water cycles through different phases and locations, like when it evaporates from the oceans and then rains down onto the ground or into a lake. Rocks also gets recycled under Earth's surface, where it is melted down and then sent back up in volcanic eruptions. Alright, that sums up everything. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have learned something from the lesson today. Goodbye and see you on the next discussion.